Today we're gathering around the campfire with Edwina, a QHS member whose life is as exciting and grounding as a hike through the mountains. But what trails did she tread to reach these heights? Let's trek into the wilderness and discover the adventures that led Edwina to where she is today.
Hi, my name's Edwina. I was born in Hong Kong, and during the time that I was very young, in the late 60s, there were riots in Hong Kong. So the most famous one, I was just a little kid, so I don't really remember, but it was 1967. And at that stage, my parents decided that Hong Kong was no longer safe to raise children. So Dad did his investigation and moved the family. And we had two choices. One was the US of A, and the other one, well, actually three, because Dad was a civil servant and we could have gone to England just like that. But for some reason, he didn't want to go to the British Isles. And then lo and behold, we found a new home in Canada. So sometimes I ponder, what if I was an American? That would be different. So anyways, I was very young as a new immigrant into Canada. And I remember my first day at school. It was the worst day of my life because there was a half Indian and a half French. He was French and Indian. And I got bullied during recess. And I had long hair at the time. I know it's hard to believe. And he said to me, let's play cowboys and Indians, and you get to be the horse. So he got on my back and he took my, and I had pigtails. He took my pigtails and he started whipping. And I had to run around the play yard, and going around in circles. And I didn't know what to do because I've never, ever had that experience in my life before. And so I remember coming home going, Dad, I'm not going back to school. These people are horrible. I want to go home. This is not my home. And so he calmed me down. And Dad was a Tai Chi master. So ever since I was 4 years old, we had to get up at 5. So something about my dad, everything that he did, the kids had to participate in some manner, in some level. So we got up at 5 and I had to do my, the horse stance to train my lower portion of my body. And it was like for an hour. And of course, when Dad was looking, I would stand up. And when I knew he was just about to turn around, I would squat down again, pretending I was doing that the whole entire time. So anyways, I think it was about the third day at school because, Dad said, we're not having this conversation. You're going back to school. So on the third day, I decided that this recess, I had enough. He was hurting. I mean, he really pulled on my hair. I remember the pain. And then I guess it comes along with the DNA. He wanted to, climb on my back. And somehow I turned around and I punched him right in the chest. And he went boing. I thought he was dead. I was 7 at the time. And then I remember going, oh my God, I'm so much trouble. And so something about the Chinese, or at least in our family, when you've done something wrong, if you go running up to grandma and admit that this is your bad, then the punishment is less, right? And then grandma used to always, tell Dad not to hit us so much, not to punish us so much. So the first thing I did was I ran to my teacher. That was like a knee-jerk reaction, a reflex, right? I ran to and her name is Miss Kennedy. I still remember. And I said, Miss Kennedy, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, like this. And so I told her what happened, and she said, I know, Edwina, I've been watching the whole thing. And I didn't really understand what she meant by that. And I think I was even crying because and so by the time I turned around, the boy is right on my tail and screaming and saying that, she hit me, she should be in detention, and da 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 da. And then I remember Miss Kennedy looked at him and said, no, you bullied her for 3 days. You got what you deserved. And then Miss Kennedy looked at me and says, now, Edwina, never again. There's no violence here, no hitting, or something alluded to that. Probably not the exact words. And then, so I didn't get a detention. And then I remember, the boy was like so mad, extremely pissed off, and then said, it's not fair, and he ran. And then, so I was still standing there, and then Miss Kennedy said, it's okay, you're dismissed. And I still looked at her, and then as she turned around, she paused, and then she winked at me, and she goes, that was a good hit. And then from that moment onwards, it put a little belief into me that there is justice. There is equality, there is fairness. And in my whole life, I was always for the underdog. That kind of put a seed into my head to always look out for the weaker ones and take the lead and stand firm on your belief and take a stand for life. Don't back down. So that was a huge teaching. And that, I think, paved my way to who I am today. And of course, Dad being a scholar, he is like the Wikipedia of our time. You could never argue with him. He knows everything. He's a scholar. So all these kind of traditions added to the principles and the ethics that I hold on to. So I'm very glad that I was born into this family and had the opportunity to witness and experience the best of the West and the best of the East and merge it into one. And hence, fast forward to QHS. So I got to know, so another thing is that ever since I was a kid, I always want answers. I wanted to know who I really am, where I came from, and where I go when I die. Those were the 3 important questions of my time. And I was always seeking for a teacher. And so I experienced Zen, Buddhism, Taoism, all the isms, not communism. And and I was always curious, and I explored, and I wanted to learn. And hence, what led me to be kind of like a teacher. As they say, you teach what you want to learn and know so that you can gain wisdom and escalate and elevate yourself to a higher consciousness. Following the path of finding teachers, and it led me to Ramtha School of Enlightenment, which is in Yale, Washington. And through that, I was connected to Alex Coyer, because in 1996, he went to the ranch and he spoke. And at that time, I wasn't a student yet. I was a student in 1998, but I knew of his work, and I had followed him, ever since. And so November of 2023, he popped up with Tracy, the coach, on the YouTube. And I'm like, what's that? And I'm curious. And so I clicked and I listened to the interview, and I knew that he was not well for a long time because his voice, his mannerism, and since I've been following him, I saw the changes, and I did see there was a deterioration in his life. But then I stopped. During that period, there was a lot of I was very busy about finding truth. So I didn't listen to Alex for a while. So when I saw the interview with him and Tracy, I went, wow, he's looking a lot better. And then something, and I don't usually act on impulse as much because I do my due diligence, I do my research. But for whatever reason, something just resonated in my soul. And I knew that QHS was not just about the device. There was something else. So, but just to be sure, I took out my, dowling sticks, and I wanted to make sure if this company was on the up and up. And sure enough, the sticks crossed, meaning that it was yes. So, and of course, I resonate with Alex. So I knew he wouldn't recommend something if it wasn't true to him. So that evening or late afternoon, I quickly signed up without, hardly any research at all, which is not like me, because I don't want to be wrong because usually if I receive something that is close to my heart, I usually share it. And I don't want to be, sharing something that would have certain consequences in the future. So that's why I always make sure it's bulletproof. But for whatever reason, this was one of the first times that I never really checked. And, but anyways, it all worked out. Except for the little part about we had to wait for a long time to get our devices. But anyways, that's, whatever. That's another story another time. And so why I was interested in the quantum healing was that I was actually walking for it. So being, knowing what I know, I knew about Nikola Tesla long ago. And I know his oscillation machines. I know about frequency. So everything, I was actually focusing on receiving something that would use frequency in the quantum level to heal the body. Because humanity is not meant to be sick. And we know the bad actors cause humanity to have all this pain and suffering, which is going to be reversed very, very soon. And I cannot, I know there's tons and tons of people that are waiting for this liberation. And I think November 5th of 2024, we had a liberation, or at least confirmation of it. So, and we're all anticipating on the best Christmas ever, or even the best Thanksgiving ever at the end of the month. Wouldn't that be amazing? The gratitude of freedom to humanity. So anyways, so I have been focusing on quantum healing beds or quantum healing devices. And that's exactly what I was saying. So when it matched quantum healing systems, I said, okay, I got the last word wrong. No worries, we're all good. So I knew, so maybe that's what was resonating, at a soul level, that was the connection. And by the time I was 12 years old, living in Canada, Canada's national sport is hockey. Being in the cold air or whatever, I developed asthma. And so that was one of the reasons I was looking into healing myself, was to completely be free of any bronchial or, flares of breathing problems whatsoever. And I was hit by a motorcycle prior to COVID. And then, of course, you don't go and see the doctor during that time, right? For the years of lockdown. So I was in excruciating pain and trying to do it on my own, doing stretches. And so I could barely walk at one time. And having the device, things have gotten better, but every now and then it will flare up. Like today, I could feel my hip. It's stiffening up, and but I don't know. Like I still put the trust on the quantum twine wave and whatever adjustment that is needed. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things. I mean, there are solar flares, there's chemicals in the air. So I don't know what is really going on, but as a whole, I feel better. And I don't have the usual attacks in terms of asthmatic conditions as before. Like change of weather usually takes a toll on my breathing, especially when I move from a warm area to a cold area. But now it seems like everything is settling down. And so I'm grateful for that. And I know, excuse me, and I know that your body needs a time to adjust. So I'll just leave it there. The biggest question is, when the med beds or the ARC will come, and how will you see life as, as reverse aging or, whatever the term that they want to use, makeover happens. Well, we all know that we've been lied to for a gazillion years. So my passion is to re-educate, or maybe education is not even the right term to use, but is to re-inform the truth to humanity and do it in such a way that is, it's not making people wrong. It's not saying, I told you so, like leaving all the negative out and looking at the bright future that humanity can arise to, and knowing the truth. And then we go back to, living in freedom and knowing the truth, so that this will never, ever, ever happen again. Because humanity, once we're free, there's no way that we will go back to be enslaved in any system or in any hierarchy form. We are all divine, equal beings. So that would be my passion, is to send truth to the world and have every soul lit up, and that they live, what they want in their own life, their desires, their intent, and to unite as one and come together, and that we all contribute to eons and eons, of generations. And who knows, death is an illusion. We live forever. So having said that, I'll see you on the other side.
Join us on the Prequel, where every story matters and every voice is heard. Because here at QHS, We're all about healing, learning, and growing together.